Okay, so I want to talk to you guys about a different topic, and basically, what I want to go into is certain artists who want to support other artists who are more or less problematic. And recently, people have been going in on T.I. because, as we know, Iggy Azalea is a serial cultural appropriator with this hypervisibility of white privilege, and Q-Tip and Solange were scolding Iggy, and not to the extent where Azalea Banks was just reading Iggy to filth, but Q-Tip decided to positively educate Iggy. Like, he wasn't really insulting her or cursing her out. He was just trying to teach her about her white privilege and the history of hip hop and how Iggy is taking that for granted. And then Solange said something, and after Q-Tip said something to Iggy, then T.I. decided to defend Iggy, and people were like, okay, when Iggy read Azalea to Filth, that was fine, but apparently Iggy can't handle someone telling her nicely that she is culturally appropriating hip hop and that she needs to check her white privilege. And it just goes to show you how a lot of black men have this ideal that they need to protect white women more so than black women, because this is the same man who threatened to throw Azalea Banks, a dark-skinned black woman, down the stairs. This is a black man who pretty much threatened a dark-skinned black woman with violence. Because remember, T.I. is light-skinned. T.I. is a light-skinned black man. So for this light-skinned black man to have such animosity towards a dark-skinned black woman just shows that, one, he is colorist, two, he is misogynistic. And the reason why I've called him colorist is because I've listened to his songs, and a lot of his songs he was like, I like my women light-skinned, like Tiny. I have nothing against Tiny because she is very talented and she seems like a cool person, but I have something against her husband because her husband is very disgusting, and the fact that he would defend a racist white woman and not listen to a black woman who is saying some truthful things. Like, Iggy was like, I'm a runaway slave master, thinking that shit was cute, but it wasn't. And Azalea was like, hey, I don't think that it's fair that Iggy is getting attention for being white and blonde, because it is about the looks. It is about the fact that she is a fairly attractive white woman. And I'm not like just saying that just to be saying that. I do think that she is an attractive white woman, but at the same time, she's racist, so that makes her ugly. I'm sorry. With T.I. defending Iggy, I just lost so many respect points from him. For him, it's ridiculous how people that you think are alright show their true colors when it comes to defending whiteness. Another issue is that there are quite a few black artists and POC artists who are cool with Iggy. Jennifer Lopez, Jay Hudson, and even Tinashe, who I really do like. I like her. I like her musically. Musically, she's very talented. I think she has a nice voice. She is a great dancer. But at the same time, people have pointed out that Tinashe isn't the most racially conscious person. And it's not to say that we expect everyone to know their shit, but being the fact that she's half African, her dad is Zimbabwean, however he's from Zimbabwe, her name is African, like, she is of African heritage. And then her mom is a white woman. So Tinashe is a biracial woman. She considers herself to be mixed. Most of the time she calls herself to be mixed. But as far as I see, she is a black woman. She is, a like, yeah, when you look at her, you can tell that she's mixed. But at the same time, I still look at her as a black female artist. So the fact that she too is sort of co-signing Iggy, like, is alright with the fact that this white woman is pretty much trying to take credit from other hardworking black artists, it rubs me the wrong way. And the fact that Jennifer Hudson is featuring Iggy on her album, which it would be a good song if it wasn't for the fact that Iggy was on it, and then Jennifer is also on the album with Iggy's Recharged or whatever album. And then another problem I have is Jennifer Lopez. And in spite of the fact that she is not black, she is a non-black Latina, I still feel like, Jennifer, you as a woman of color, the fact that you are co-signing a white woman, basically appropriating women of color, is just disrespectful, because Iggy has said very disrespectful things about women of color. She has made fun of Asian women. She has made fun of Mexican women. She has made fun of black women. So to see a woman of color that I actually look up to, because I've always liked Jennifer Lopez. Like, I fuck with Jennifer Lopez musically. I do love her music. I think she is very beautiful. I really have no issue with J-Lo, but she's been fucking up lately. She's been supporting Iggy. And Bad Dominicana on her Twitter has basically said that Jennifer Lopez is a notorious cultural appropriator who likes to appropriate Afro-Latinas, because remember, she is not a black Latina. So I do see the criticisms with J-Lo, but I'm just like, wow, really, J-Lo? Like, a woman of color who's not black, but someone I respect greatly, is sort of just letting Iggy, basically be the symbol of big butts, because I know Jennifer Lopez is a non-black woman who is a symbol of big butts, but at least she's a woman of color who, may or may not come from a small portion of African heritage. Like, I don't know, but how I look at it as, this is a woman of color, so I was always lenient with J-Lo. Like, I know she's not black. I know she does not identify to be a black woman, but it's like, she's not a white woman. So I can see why there are some non-black women of color who may have full lips or a large ass, and I'm not going to be complaining like, oh, Jennifer Lopez has a big butt and she's not black and she's taking attention from black women, because I just see it as she's a mixed race woman of color, who does have those features because of her heritage and who she is. So I never really looked at it that way, but I can see why there are black women who feel some type of way when a non-black woman of color is getting praise that black women don't receive because of anti-blackness and other POC communities and things like that, and non-black privilege. But it's just like, Jennifer, why do you have to do this to me? Tinashe, why do you have to go on tour with Iggy? Why? And someone on my Tumblr said that Tinashe has been defending Iggy. I'm like, why? Why? I know Tinashe's mother is white, but that does not mean you can be okay with racist white women appropriating black culture. But I guess that's how it is with a lot of mixed people. And I'm not like trying to say like every person is like that. But what I do notice is that a lot of mixed women who are of black heritage have this internalized misogynoir. And a lot of the times it comes from the fact that they come from white women who may have some contempt for black women. Now, I don't know Iggy's mother. I'm not going to like judge and say, this is what Iggy's mom is like. I mean, from what I've seen, she seems like a nice woman, but I don't know why Iggy would sort of defend, not Iggy, why Tinashe would defend Iggy. Because like I said, yes, Tinashe is half white, but I do feel some type of way that this is a mixed race woman of African heritage who is kind of like cool with the fact that Iggy is pretty much exploiting off of black women and black bodies, because more or less Tinashe is a black woman too. So I don't really see why she or Jennifer Hudson are sort of like, oh yeah, Iggy, we cool. Like, no. I understand like you're friends with certain people, but I wouldn't be friends with a racist. That's how it is. Like, I've already cut off a few people who turn out to be racist, and I'm not afraid to cut off more people like that. Anyway, a Twitter user, a mutual, sent me a video of Tinashe nearly a year ago talking about her name. And as I watched the video, the first thing that came out of the interviewer's mouth was, for someone who is so light-skinned, your name is so ghetto. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And then instantly someone was like, well, her name is African, so it's not a ghetto name. And Tinashe was kind of like, yeah, my name's not ghetto, because Tinashe was sort of feeling some type of way about it. And then she was like, yeah, my name is African, but I do believe that some people put a ghetto tangent on that name. And I was like, whoa, because the way she said it, like she believed in that whole ghetto dichotomy, that whole ghetto wretched culture where there are where there are ghetto black people. And I was like, okay, Tinashe, like what do you mean by that? Because I know Tinashe isn't perfect. I know she can be problematic, but a lot of times when certain people say things that kind of rub me the wrong way, I'm like, okay, what do they mean by that? Like, there are black people who are kind of problematic, but being someone who's more compassionate for black people because of solidarity and unity, I'm going to want to like understand where they are coming from, and to see if they can sort of change their mentality and not be so problematic, because I used to be problematic too. So I'm hoping that maybe certain black people are going to change their mindset and realize, hey, you know, she's right. You know, that is problematic. That is pretty anti-black. And that's very colorist as well. But with Tinashe, she was just like, you know, my name is taken as ghetto, but I don't really see it that way. But then they were kind of like making fun of the fact that it was close to Tanisha, and she was like, oh no, I'm not like a Tanisha. Like, I don't want to be like the other Tanishas. And I kind of saw it as she was Tinashe, and then the other regular black girls who aren't mixed are just Tanishas. And she was trying to set herself apart. It's like, because I felt like there was a lot of ethnocentrism going on as well. Like, oh, my name is African. My name is not like African American, where, you know, she was distinguishing the fact that, you know, she is African, and then African American girls with names of maybe southern regions that are more or less. So, like, first of all, I've had a conversation with my mom about this idea of ghetto names, and she's like, well, they're ghetto because they're made up. Like, they're nonsensical, like Shaniqua. And I was telling her, because in another video that I watched a long time ago, the YouTuber's name is Tatiana Mercedes, I believe, and like she has a Tumblr, Marshmallow. She was basically giving us a history that with ghetto names, like names that are deemed ghetto that aren't really ghetto, like a lot of the names are derived from the male and then the woman, like the parents. So if your dad's name is John and then your mother's name is Nika, you're gonna put the name together and your name is Jonica. Or if your dad's name is Shaquille and then your mom's name is Keisha, you know, Shakisha, something like that. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. I believe that's beautiful. But then people are going to take it like, oh, it's made up. But most names are made up. Like, you look up these names and it says this is what it means. It means like the sun. Like, people usually make names up and then create some meaning behind it. Like, really? So how you going to sit there and say that this name is ghetto just because it's on a black body, a dark-skinned black body? Because with this whole Tinashe is so light-skinned, but her name is ghetto, you know, that does go with the ideal that dark-skinned women can be named Shaniqua and be ridiculed for it. And then someone like Tinashe, who is light-skinned with curly hair and a very narrow nose, her name can be something like Tinashe, and then it's like, oh, you know, you're sticking to your roots, and that's a beautiful African name. But let someone be dark skinned with that name, and then suddenly, oh, like I can't pronounce your name. Like, why does your name gotta be so hard? You know, and it sucks because there is a lot of colorism where light skinned women can get away with things that are deemed ghetto, and then darker skinned women cannot. So I was disappointed in Tinashe that she was sort of eating it up, because it looked like maybe Tinashe wasn't going to like go off on them, because I understand like she's trying to be professional. She's in an interview, so she's not going to like be like, well, what did you say? You know, like, I understand that, but there have been times where people have been kind of going off on interviewers, or Nikki recently respectfully but sternly said that she wasn't going to talk about the things that the interviewer was trying to talk to her about, because with this whole misogyny and misogynoir and saying like, who did you fuck with, like things that was totally irrelevant to her. And I felt like the things that they were talking about was irrelevant, talking about Tinashe's looks and you know, a lot of colorism involved and a lot of misogynoir. And Tinashe was just kind of giggling and, you know, because I guess she sees it as a compliment, but it's not a compliment. It's very colorist. It's very dehumanizing for black women, even if you are light skinned and half white. Like I don't know, because I don't think she really identifies as a black girl. I think she sees herself as mixed, like 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 a whole separate category, and that's cool. But I just feel like, as someone who sees it as this is a brown girl who has like pretty noticeable features that like let people know, hey, like she's black, but she's also mixed. You know, I would think that she would not be so cool with Iggy, but I mean that's her prerogative. I'm just not gonna like support it. But I'm just kind of like, you know, why does all my faves have to be problematic? Like none of our faves are going to be completely innocent, but I'm just like, really? Come on now. And I'm kind of rambling on and on right now, but it's like, why? Why do you feel the need to defend Iggy? She is not really that talented. And I'm just talking about people in general. Like Iggy is not talented. Her music is simply not good. And this is coming from someone who used to be a fan. Like Iggy is not very good. If you like Iggy, it's likely for her looks, or you just like the gimmick of it being a white girl with blonde hair, you know, appropriating the Southern dialect and then going back to her Australian accent in interviews. I want to talk to you briefly about another issue that I've seen on my Twitter timeline. It's basically this whole HBCU PWI debate where people are mad because certain Twitter users are saying that there is a lot of anti-blackness when it comes to people not wanting to go to HBCUs or just simply not preferring HBCUs. As someone who goes to a PWI, I don't really agree that it's inherently anti-black for me or other black people to go to a PWI, because I don't believe that we really have a choice in where we go to. Like, but at the same time, like, here's the thing: as someone who is in special needs because of high functioning autism, stuff like that, I really didn't make the decision on what school I wanted to go to. Like, I mean, it was kind of like IU or a school like that, but I go to a community college. It's not really a community college because it's a campus, but historically it's been like a junior community college where you can now go for a 4-year degree depending on your major. But it is a predominantly white school, but at the same time we do have quite a few black students on my campus, and that's usually who I hang out with. So the majority of my good friends on that campus are black, and I'm in the multicultural student organizations. But I do see where certain people are coming from when people want to, you know, apologize for PWIs and say, well, there was colorism at HBCUs and HBCUs and let in dark-skinned black people. Okay, but like it doesn't really make sense because you're going to a school that didn't let any black person in, and then you're trying to say, well, HBCUs are bad because, well, they used to not let in dark-skinned black people. And it's like, okay, we can talk about that. And I feel like there are certain users that don't really want to talk about how, you know, these schools were colorist, how these schools have a lot of respectability politics feeding into that. But I just want to ask you, what type of HBCUs are you talking about? Are you talking about the prestigious schools like Howard, Spelman, and Morehouse, or the regular HBCUs that are public schools that you don't really look into? You're not really looking at it as your kids, like you don't really consider the fact that there are schools with black teachers that can teach your kids. You don't really look at it. You don't really look at, you know, hey, you know, maybe I should send my kid to an HBCU. And then people are saying, well, I couldn't afford to go to an HBCU, but they're talking about schools like Spelman or Howard, you know, the very prestigious, expensive private schools. and then they're not really talking about the schools that are pretty affordable. And I'm just like, no one's saying that you're not black enough because you don't go to an HBCU, but they're saying that there are a lot of black people who privilege PWIs over HBCUs because people want to go to a school full of white people. We can go to school with white people and there is still racism. I feel like there's a lot of anti-blackness involved with why people don't want to go to schools full of black kids because they think, oh, it's ghetto, oh, there's no diversity. And I used to think like that. I used to think no diversity, which that is code for, oh, there's no white people to be friends with. And it's like, come on, there's more diversity at an HBCU than you can find at a PWI. Like, maybe, yes, it's mostly black students, but you're going to find people who have such diverse interests. You want to talk about how PWIs are more diverse, but then say, well, you're not black enough because you like this, you like gymnastics, and, you know, black people can only do this. If you go to an HBCU, I am sure you will find plenty of black people with different interests. There's probably black people who are interested in gymnastics or anime or hip hop, things like that. You know, you can find all types of black people of different skin tones, different ethnicities, different mixed backgrounds, stuff like that. Black people aren't a monolith, and that's what we are trying to tell you. And I'm not saying that, you know, because you did this, then that means you're anti-black and that you hate yourself, because I feel like that's an attack on our blackness. Like, we're already trying to decolonize ourselves, and you're saying that, well, we need to stop going to PWIs, because I do feel like you need to talk about how HBCUs are valuable, but at the same time, you can't just be like, well, you go to a PWI because you hate yourself. And a lot of us know how valuable HBCUs are, but we may not be able to access an HBCU, or maybe there aren't many HBCUs in our area, and it's kind of expensive to just go out of state, or, you know, to pay tuition like that. So we just go to a college where, like, it's easier access, and unfortunately for us, it's easy access to go to a PWI, more so than maybe if it's an HBCU. You know, because, like, even if there is an HBCU you can find, like, you may have to risk paying an out of state tuition, and no one wants to do that, because a lot of us are poor. A lot of us don't have money to just be sending our kids to whatever college they want. And not everyone wants to go to college anyway. So I do feel like there needs to be intersectionality with that. But I don't really agree with the fact that we shouldn't talk about HBCUs versus PWIs, and we should just leave it in 2014, because I feel like, no way. Like, we need to talk about how HBCUs are valuable and how PWIs are more funded than those who, you know, fund an HBCU, and how we need to teach the importance of HBCUs, because we still need black spaces. We advocate for black Greeks and stuff like that. Like, even though there are respectability politics coming into play, and there is a history of colorism, like, I would rather talk about the value of that black space than just completely ignore and, like, you know, because it's like, you can sit there and say, you know, I go to a PWI and it's not that bad, and HBCUs are pretty colorist with respectability politics and classism, but so are PWIs, and you're not really talking about them the way you're trying to come for an HBCU. So it is suspicious how you can be turned off by an HBCU because of the colorist history, but you can go to a white school with a racist history. They used to not allow you in that school. You know, you can not say shit about Harvard, but you want to talk shit about Spelman. Like that's how I feel. I'm not saying, yeah, get over the colorism. I'm just saying, why are we talking about PWIs and sending our children to PWIs instead of HBCUs? Why aren't we looking into predominantly black schools? Because we think they're ghetto, they're in the inner city. You know, we don't want to go to an HBCU because it's in the middle of the ghetto. And I've heard so many people say that, and that's very anti-black. I'm going to stop right here because my phone is about to go dead. So just tell me what you think, if you agree or disagree. The usual, I say this in almost every one of my videos. But you know the drill. Bye.